For most people, placing a bet isn't actually about the money. What keeps you coming back is the anticipation. Every wager is a question mark, and waiting for the answer creates a massive emotional rush. The brain responds to this uncertainty by flooding your system with chemicals tied to pleasure. You are physically rewarding your brain for taking a risk. The catch, of course, is the delivery system for those chemicals. Chasing that rush through casinos or sportsbooks routinely leads to depleted savings accounts, mounting financial debt, and fractured relationships. When you stop betting, you eliminate the financial risk, but you also remove your primary source of excitement. This leaves a massive, dangerously boring void. Relying entirely on willpower to sit in that boredom usually fails because it fights against your basic brain chemistry. To overcome the habit, you have to redirect that drive. You need to systematically find new ways to get a similar reward without putting your life on the line. To do that, we have to look at all potential replacement hobbies through two specific metrics: how much they stimulate your brain and how much they risk your livelihood. Gambling sits in the extreme top right. It offers massive neurological spikes, but carries a constant threat of financial ruin. We are looking exclusively in this top left quadrant, the target zone. These activities maintain high engagement with zero threat to financial stability. The challenge is that there is no universal activity that fits into this zone for everyone. What genuinely excites one person might completely bore another. Finding your replacement isn't about taking generic advice to just go for a walk. It requires looking closely at how you gamble, identifying the exact itch you're trying to scratch, and matching it to a healthy alternative. Let's start with the first type of bettor, the competitor. If you fall into this group, you are driven by adrenaline, unpredictability, and the pure desire to outplay an opponent. If you tell a competitor to take up knitting or birdwatching, they will relapse. Slow, passive activities simply don't generate the friction and intensity this personality craves. Instead, the optimal replacements here are competitive video gaming and skill-based tournaments. Video games are explicitly engineered around difficult missions, rapid progression systems, and beating challenging opponents. They deliver high-stakes anticipation, but a loss doesn't cost you your rent money. If you prefer stepping away from the screen, that same competitive drive can be channeled into local chess tournaments, trivia leagues, or free-play poker. The goal is intense, head-to-head friction with zero monetary wager. The trade-off for the competitor is effort. Success in these arenas isn't random. You have to endure a steep learning curve and actually put in the hours to master the mechanics. You are trading the unearned, fleeting thrill of a lucky jackpot for the deeper satisfaction of building a real skill and outsmarting the person across from you. The second type of bettor is the analyst. This is the person who spends hours tracking player statistics, calculating odds, and trying to optimize complex financial systems. For the analyst, joining a casual sports league or picking up a paintbrush usually falls flat. Those activities don't scratch the deep intellectual itch of solving a numerical puzzle. The most effective pivot for this group is redirecting that analytical energy into responsible, long-term investing and financial planning. This comparison matrix shows the core difference. Gambling relies on short-term volatility and a house edge. Investing redirects that focus into long-term growth and market ownership. Additionally, structured collecting like curating rare coins requires extensive research to track values while retaining the physical asset. The trade-off here is patience. Building a portfolio or a collection requires strict emotional regulation to endure slow, methodical progress over years rather than seconds. The analyst must make a conscious choice to walk away from the daily anxiety spikes of the sportsbook and embrace the grounded, predictable satisfaction of building real wealth. Finally, we have the escapist. This viewer isn't necessarily chasing a high or trying to crack a system. They are opening betting apps to numb loneliness, relieve daily stress, or just kill time. Mobile gambling apps are uniquely dangerous for this group. Because they sit in your pocket 24 hours a day, they offer a constant, completely frictionless escape from reality, often deepening the isolation that triggered the behavior in the first place. The direct antidote to this isolation is movement and connection, specifically structured physical fitness, running races, or joining community sports leagues. Setting a physical goal, like training to run a 5-kilometer race, forces your brain to naturally release endorphins. These chemicals actively improve your mood and counteract the depressive cycles linked to constant petting. If physical training isn't an option, immersive creative work like music production, woodworking, or photography serves a similar purpose. These activities demand deep focus, pulling you out of your head and leaving you with a tangible result. The core trade-off for the escapist is momentum. Opening an app takes zero effort. Starting a new workout routine or learning a craft requires you to push through a high wall of initial physical and mental friction. To break the destructive cycle of passive screen scrolling, the escapist has to intentionally build active, community-based habits that reconnect them with the physical world. There is a blunt, uncomfortable truth to all of this. Absolutely none of these healthy alternatives will perfectly replicate the chaotic highs and lows of placing a massive bet. But that is exactly the point. The fact that playing a board game or buying an index fund doesn't make your heart pound out of your chest is what makes these hobbies safe. The intense emotional roller coaster that makes gambling feel so thrilling is the exact same force that makes it highly addictive and eventually destructive. Because of this, you should expect to hit a frustrating wall of boredom when you first transition. Your brain's dopamine receptors have been overloaded, and it takes time for them to slowly recalibrate to normal activities. Accepting the loss of that instant chaotic high is not a failure of your new hobby. It is simply the mandatory cost of entry for reclaiming your life. The next step is to self-diagnose your core trigger right now, so you can formulate an exact action plan for tomorrow. Looking at this flowchart, the path is clear. If your trigger is adrenaline, funnel energy into esports or intense fitness. For math and systems, pivot into market fundamentals, programming, or data tracking. To numb loneliness, force yourself into community sports, creative arts, or volunteer work. Stubborn resistance rarely lasts. You need to intentionally fill that vacant space with constructive, engaging activities that pull you into a state of flow. Gambling promises excitement, but mathematically, it guarantees regret. By investing your time into these healthy alternatives instead, you guarantee a resilient, thriving future.